Hello, and welcome to Woo English. Here, you can practice English through interesting stories about history, people, business, and the world around us. Today's story is written in clear B1 English. You do not need to understand every word. Just listen, follow the story, and try to understand the main ideas. Today, we are going to Africa. But our story is also about Spain. In the summer of 2026, tens of thousands of people moved toward a small city on the northern coast of Morocco. Some came by road. Some entered the sea. Some tried to swim around the border. Spanish police and soldiers were waiting. The city was called Ceuta. And for many people watching the news, there was an obvious question. Why were so many people trying to enter Ceuta? But there was another question, a much stranger one. Why was Spain defending a land border in Africa? Ceuta is physically in Africa. Morocco surrounds it on land. But Ceuta is Spanish. And it is not alone. Farther east, there is another Spanish city on the African coast, Melilla. Two Spanish cities in Africa, both claimed by Morocco. How did this happen? And why, after hundreds of years, are they still Spanish? To answer that, we need more than the news. We need to cross the Strait of Gibraltar. We need to travel back more than 600 years. And we need to discover why this small corner of the world has connected Europe and Africa for centuries. Let us begin with the map. Chapter 1. Europe on African Soil. Look at a map of Europe and Africa. Spain is in the north. Morocco is in the south. Between them lies the Strait of Gibraltar. At its narrowest point, Europe and Africa are only about 14 kilometers apart. On a clear day, you can see the other continent across the water. But the map hides something. Spain does not end on the European side of the strait. On the northern coast of Africa sits Ceuta. The Mediterranean lies beside it. Morocco surrounds it on land. But cross the border into Ceuta, and you enter Spanish territory. People use the euro. Spanish police patrol the streets. Spanish law applies. Residents vote in Spanish elections. You are standing on the African continent. But politically, you are in Spain. Several hundred kilometers to the east is Melilla. It is smaller than many famous European cities. But its situation is almost the same. It is in Africa. It has a land border with Morocco. And it belongs to Spain. Together, Ceuta and Melilla create one of the strangest borders in the world. Europe and Africa do not only face each other across the sea here. Territory belonging to an EU country meets an African country directly on land. There are roads, border gates, fences, police, people traveling in both directions. For Morocco, this creates a geographic situation that no other African country has. Morocco is the only African country with land borders directly touching territory of a member of the European Union. But these cities are unusual even inside the European system. Ceuta and Melilla belong to Spain and are connected to the European Union, but they have special economic and customs rules. They are not inside the normal EU customs territory. Their position has always required exceptions, and geography explains why. Imagine living in northern Morocco. Europe is not thousands of kilometers away. It is not somewhere across an ocean. In some places, Spanish territory is just beyond a fence. For one person, that border may mean work. For another, family. For a trader, it may mean 2 different markets. For governments, it means security and sovereignty. And for some migrants, it can represent a possible road toward Europe. This gives 2 small cities an importance much larger than their size. But there is also a political problem. Spain says Ceuta and Melilla are Spanish. Morocco claims the 2 cities. From Madrid, they are normal parts of the Spanish state. From Rabat, they are territories on the Moroccan coast that should belong to Morocco. So perhaps the explanation is simple. Maybe Spain took these cities during the great European colonization of Africa in the 19th century. France took large parts of Africa. Britain built an empire. Spain also controlled African territory. Perhaps Ceuta and Melilla are simply pieces left from that period. But there is a problem with that explanation. Their story is much older. Ceuta came under European control centuries before the modern colonial division of Africa. And the country that took it was not Spain. It was Portugal. The year was 1415. Chapter 2. Before Spain was Spain. In August 1415, a large Portuguese fleet crossed the Strait of Gibraltar. Its destination was Ceuta. At the time, Ceuta was a Muslim city on the North African coast. It had a useful harbor. It was connected to trade routes, and it stood near the entrance to the Mediterranean. Portugal was already an independent kingdom. Its rulers were looking for new opportunities beyond the Iberian Peninsula. For the Portuguese king and his nobles, Ceuta offered several things: military importance, trade, prestige, and a chance to continue fighting Muslim powers after years of conflict in Iberia. On August 21st, Portuguese forces captured the city. Portugal now controlled a permanent position in Africa. But taking Ceuta did not mean that Portugal controlled Morocco. The city had to be defended. Food and soldiers often had to arrive by sea. The land around Ceuta remained outside Portuguese control. Later, Portuguese attempts to expand farther into Morocco did not always succeed. A major attack on Tangier in 1437 ended badly. Portugal slowly began looking in other directions, down the Atlantic coast of Africa, toward Atlantic islands, later toward India, and eventually toward Brazil. Ceuta was not the entire beginning of the Portuguese Empire, but it stood very close to the beginning of Portugal's overseas expansion. There was still one problem. Our story is about a Spanish city. So, how did Portuguese Ceuta become Spanish? To answer that, we need to look at Iberia itself. Modern Spain did not yet exist in 1415 in the form we know today. There were several kingdoms. Castile and Aragon were two of the most powerful. Portugal was separate. In 1469, Isabella of Castile married Ferdinand of Aragon. Later, both became rulers of their own kingdoms. Their marriage did not create modern Spain overnight. Castile and Aragon kept many different laws and institutions, but their union created the political center from which modern Spain would slowly develop. Then came 1492. Granada, the last Muslim-ruled kingdom in Iberia, surrendered to Ferdinand and Isabella. That same year, Christopher Columbus sailed west across the Atlantic. Only 5 years later, in 1497, Spanish forces took Melilla on the North African coast. Now, two Iberian powers held important cities in Africa. Portugal had Ceuta. Spain had Melilla. They were still separate. Then, in 1580, Portugal faced a royal crisis. Its king had died without a direct heir. Philip II of Spain claimed the Portuguese crown. For 60 years, Spain and Portugal shared the same monarch. This period became known as the Iberian Union. Portugal still kept many of its own institutions and overseas territories, but both kingdoms now had one king. In 1640, Portugal rebelled and began to recover its independence. Most Portuguese territories followed Portugal. Ceuta did not. It remained connected to Spain. In 1668, the Treaty of Lisbon formally recognized Portuguese independence. Ceuta remained Spanish. Now, the two cities had come together under Spanish control. Melilla had been Spanish since 1497. Ceuta had begun as a Portuguese conquest and later become Spanish. The map was moving toward the shape we recognize today. But there is a danger here. After hearing this history, we may imagine that power always moved in one direction. Europe in the north, Africa in the south. European kingdoms growing stronger and moving into Africa. But the Strait has never worked in only one direction. Centuries before Portugal entered Ceuta, rulers from North Africa crossed the same water and moved north when power crossed the strait the other way. Forget the modern map for a moment. Go back more than 1,000 years. Spain does not exist as a modern state. Morocco does not exist in its modern form. The political world is made of kingdoms, dynasties, tribes, and empires. In 711, a Muslim army crossed from North Africa into the Iberian Peninsula. The force included many Berber soldiers from North Africa. Within a few years, Muslim powers controlled most of Iberia. The Muslim-ruled lands became known as Al-Andalus. For centuries, Muslim and Christian states existed beside each other, fought each other, traded with each other, and changed their borders. At different times, Cordoba became one of the great cities of Europe. Later, Muslim power in Iberia became divided between smaller kingdoms. These were called the Taifa kingdoms. They could be rich and culturally successful, but politically, they were weak. Christian kingdoms in the north were becoming stronger. In 1085, Alfonso VI captured Toledo. The loss frightened Muslim rulers in the south. They needed help. So they looked across the strait, toward North Africa. A new power had risen there, the Almoravids. Their empire had grown across much of the land we now call Morocco and beyond. Their political center was Marrakesh. Their leader, Yusuf ibn Tashfin, crossed the strait in 1086. His forces helped defeat Alfonso VI. At first, the rulers of Al-Andalus had asked the Almoravids for military help. But the Almoravids soon saw how divided those rulers were. They began taking control themselves. By around 1090, large parts of Muslim Iberia were under Almoravid rule. And here, the direction of our story changes. A dynasty centered in Marrakesh controlled lands on both sides of the strait, North Africa, and large parts of the Iberian Peninsula. Centuries later, European powers would control cities in Africa. But at this moment, political power centered in North Africa extended into Europe. This does not mean that Spain belonged to Morocco. That sentence would be historically wrong. There was no modern Spain, and the Almoravid Empire was not the modern Moroccan nation-state. But the more careful fact is still surprising. Rulers based in Marrakesh controlled large parts of what is now Spain. Later, another North African dynasty replaced them, the Almohads. The Almohads captured Marrakesh in 1147. They also crossed into Iberia and controlled important cities there. Seville became one of their main political centers in Europe. Marrakesh remained central in North Africa. The connection can still be seen in architecture. The Koutoubia Mosque in Marrakesh and the tower that became Seville's Giralda come from the same wider Almohad world. Different continents, connected political and cultural history. But the balance of power changed again. Christian kingdoms continued expanding south. In 1212, the Almohads suffered a major defeat at Las Navas de Tolosa. Their power in Iberia weakened. Cordoba fell to Castile in 1236. Seville followed in 1248. Eventually, Granada remained as the final Muslim kingdom. It survived until 1492. Then, Christian political rule reached the southern end of Iberia. 5 years later, Spain took Melilla, so the movement across the strait had changed again. North, south, then north again. This is one of the central lessons of our story. The modern border looks fixed. History was not. Political states centered in the land we now call Morocco also have deep roots. The Idrisid state began in the late 8th century, centuries before Castile and Aragon came together under Ferdinand and Isabella. This does not prove who should own Ceuta today. Being older does not automatically create modern sovereignty, but it destroys one simple idea: that political history in the region began when Europeans arrived in Africa. It did not. Both sides of the strait have long political histories, and both sides can find old maps that support emotional stories about the past. So if history alone cannot solve the modern dispute, perhaps geography can explain why people cared so much about this coast. For that, we need to look at the water. Chapter 4. Why this coast mattered. A place does not need to be large to be important. Sometimes its value comes from what passes beside it. The Strait of Gibraltar is a perfect example. To the west is the Atlantic Ocean. To the east is the Mediterranean Sea. Any ship moving between the two normally passes through this narrow area. That made the coast valuable long before Portugal or Spain arrived. Phoenician merchants sailed here. Carthaginian ships knew these waters. The Roman Empire controlled territory on both sides. Later, Muslim armies crossed north. Christian kingdoms expanded south. The direction of power changed. The importance of the strait did not. Think of a bridge connecting two large regions. A small town beside that bridge may become much more important than its size suggests. People need to pass. Goods need to pass. Soldiers may need to defend it. Information moves through it. Ports grow near it. Ceuta stood near this kind of global doorway. That helps explain Portugal's interest in the city. But we should not exaggerate. Controlling Ceuta never meant controlling every ship in the strait. Even today, Ceuta does not control global trade. Its importance comes from being inside a strategic region. There are important positions on both sides of the water, and one of the most famous is Gibraltar. Gibraltar rises from the European side of the strait. Today, it belongs to Britain. But it was once Spanish. During the War of the Spanish Succession, an Anglo-Dutch force captured Gibraltar in 1704. In 1713, Spain formally transferred it to Britain under the Treaty of Utrecht. Britain stayed. Spain never became comfortable with that result. Now the geography contained an irony. Spain controlled Ceuta on the African side. Britain controlled Gibraltar on the European side. The Strait became even more important in the 19th century. In 1869, the Suez Canal opened in Egypt. Ships could now travel between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea without going around the southern end of Africa. For ships coming from the Atlantic toward Suez, the Strait of Gibraltar became part of a much larger route toward the Middle East and Asia. Modern trade still uses this geography. Large ports operate on both sides. Algeciras in Spain is an important shipping center. Morocco built Tanger Med into one of Africa's major port complexes. Containers move, cars move, fuel moves. Passengers cross between Europe and Africa. The technology is modern. The geographic logic is ancient. This also made Morocco important to European powers. During the 19th century, France expanded into Algeria. Spain fought Morocco in 1859 and 1860. Britain cared about Gibraltar and the security of the Strait. Germany later became involved in European competition over Morocco. Morocco remained independent, but European pressure increased. Then, in 1912, most of Morocco became a French protectorate. Spain controlled protectorate zones, mainly in northern Morocco. But Ceuta and Melilla had a different status. They were already controlled directly by Spain. They were not simply created as pieces of the new Spanish protectorate. That difference would become very important. Because protectorates can end. And in the middle of the 20th century, colonial systems across Africa began to disappear. Morocco wanted independence too. When it finally came, Spain would have to answer a difficult question. If the Spanish protectorate ended, what would happen to Ceuta and Melilla? Chapter 5. Morocco becomes independent, but the cities stay Spanish. By the 1950s, the political world was changing quickly. European empires were weakening. Across Africa and Asia, independence movements were growing. Morocco had been under French and Spanish protectorate systems since 1912, but the Moroccan monarchy still existed. Sultan Mohammed V became an important symbol of national unity and independence. In 1953, French authorities removed him and sent him into exile. Instead of ending the independence movement, the decision made it stronger. Protests grew. Support for the Sultan increased. In 1955, Mohammed V returned. The protectorate system was coming to an end. Then, in 1956, Morocco recovered independence. France ended its protectorate. Spain also ended its protectorate in northern Morocco. But Ceuta stayed Spanish. Melilla stayed Spanish. From Madrid's point of view, the reason was clear. Ceuta and Melilla were not parts of the protectorate. Spain's control of them was centuries older. The Spanish protectorate had begun in 1912. Ceuta had been under Iberian control since 1415, Melilla since 1497. So, Spain argued, the protectorate was ending. The two cities were not part of it. Their status, therefore, did not change. From Morocco, the same moment looked very different. The country had recovered sovereignty after foreign control. But on its northern coast, two cities remained Spanish. For Moroccan nationalists, independence could therefore appear incomplete. This created the modern dispute. Spain starts its argument with centuries of control and political integration. Morocco starts with geography and territorial unity. Spain says the cities are parts of Spain. Morocco says they are on Moroccan territory and should return to Morocco. The disagreement is not mainly about the dates. The dates are largely known. The disagreement is about what those dates should mean today. That raises a difficult question. How long does control need to last before it becomes accepted as permanent? 5 years? 50 years? 500 years? If generations have been born under one state, does that change the meaning of an old conquest? There is no simple answer that works everywhere. Morocco also saw other territorial changes after independence. Spain transferred the Tarfaya area in 1958. Ifni returned to Morocco in 1969. So from a Moroccan point of view, the post-colonial map was still changing. Why should Ceuta and Melilla be different? Spain's answer remained the same, because in its view, they were not part of the same colonial system. Over time, Spain integrated the cities more deeply into its modern political system. Spain became a democracy after the death of Francisco Franco. The 1978 Constitution created a path for Ceuta and Melilla to receive autonomous status. In 1995, both became autonomous cities. Their residents were Spanish citizens. They voted in Spanish elections. They had local institutions inside Spain's constitutional system. Another important detail is often missed. Ceuta and Melilla are not on the United Nations list of non-self-governing territories. The United Nations does not formally classify them in the same way as places such as Gibraltar or Western Sahara. But that has not ended Morocco's claim. And the cities are not empty pieces of land. People live there. Families have lived there for generations. Their populations include Christian and Muslim communities, as well as smaller Jewish and Hindu communities. Some also have family, cultural, or linguistic connections with Morocco. Identity can be more complicated than the colors on a political map. A person can be geographically African, legally Spanish, and culturally connected to both sides of the border. This human reality makes territorial change much more difficult. Yet the dispute never completely disappeared. and there was an uncomfortable comparison waiting only a short distance away. Spain rejected Morocco's claim to Ceuta and Melilla, but Spain itself still claimed another territory, Gibraltar. Chapter 6. The Gibraltar Paradox. Gibraltar is attached to the southern end of the Iberian Peninsula. Walk north from Gibraltar and you enter Spain. But Gibraltar is British. Spain wants it back. This creates a question that is difficult to ignore. If Spain wants Britain to return Gibraltar, why should Morocco not ask Spain to return Ceuta and Melilla? At first, the situations look almost identical. Britain controls territory connected to Spain. Spain controls territory connected to Morocco. But the closer we look, the more complicated the comparison becomes. Britain captured Gibraltar in 1704. Spain formally transferred it to Britain in the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713. Britain has controlled it ever since. Spain considers Gibraltar a colonial issue. The United Nations lists Gibraltar as a non-self-governing territory. Ceuta and Melilla are not on that list. That is an important difference. Then there are the people who live in Gibraltar. They have developed a strong local identity. In 1967, voters were asked whether they wanted Spanish sovereignty or to continue their connection with Britain. Almost everyone who voted chose the British connection. In 2002, another referendum asked about shared British-Spanish sovereignty. Again, the answer was overwhelming. About 98% rejected it. Britain and Gibraltar therefore make a powerful argument. People should not be transferred to another country against their wishes. But now, Spain faces a mirror. Spain itself uses a similar human argument in Ceuta and Melilla. Residents are Spanish citizens. They have built their lives inside the Spanish state. Spain argues that they cannot simply be transferred to Morocco because of geography. So Morocco can ask, if centuries of control and local identity matter in Ceuta, why do they matter less in Gibraltar? And Britain can ask, if the wishes of Spanish citizens in Ceuta matter, why should the wishes of Gibraltar's residents matter less? This is why territorial disputes are difficult. Several principles can be important at the same time. History, treaties, geography, territorial integrity, international recognition, and the wishes of the people who live there. They do not always point toward the same answer. There is also a danger in using history too simply. Every country can choose the date that makes its argument stronger. Go back 300 years and one country has a claim. Go back 600 and the map changes. Go back 1,000 and many modern states disappear completely. Old maps can explain emotions. they cannot always solve modern sovereignty. The Gibraltar comparison, therefore, does not prove that Morocco is right, and it does not prove that Spain is right. Its value is different. It forces us to see how governments choose different principles in different disputes, and it reminds us that territory is not only land. People live inside the lines. Still, something new was happening around Ceuta and Melilla. Spain joined the European communities in 1986. European integration became deeper. Migration toward Europe grew in political importance. The old Spanish cities on the African coast were becoming more than territorial questions. They were becoming living borders between two very different economic worlds. Chapter 7. Where Europe and Africa meet on land. Imagine an ordinary morning near Ceuta. On the Moroccan side, roads lead toward the border. People go to work. Families shop. Traders move goods. Only a short distance away, children in Ceuta go to Spanish schools. Workers are paid in euros. Spanish police patrol the streets. The physical distance can be very small. The economic difference can be much larger. Spain is part of one of the richest economic regions in the world. Morocco has developed rapidly in many areas, but average incomes remain lower. When different economic systems meet at one fence, people move. Some cross for work, some for business, some to visit family. For years, the cities depended heavily on connections with nearby Moroccan communities. Geography makes complete separation impossible. Ceuta cannot move away from Morocco. Melilla cannot move away from Morocco. Whatever the sovereignty dispute, the border must be managed. This is also an external European border. That matters because the European Union allows very free movement inside much of Europe, while controlling entry from outside. Ceuta and Melilla have special arrangements because of their geography. Their situation is not exactly the same as Madrid or Barcelona. This is one reason online explanations about the border can easily become misleading. For a tourist, the border may simply be a place to show a passport. For a worker, it may separate home from a job. For a government, it is a security frontier. For some migrants, it represents something much larger. Europe. Many African migration routes require dangerous sea journeys. Some people cross the Atlantic toward the Canary Islands. Others cross the Mediterranean toward Spain, Italy, or Greece. Ceuta and Melilla create a different image. European territory appears to be right there, behind a fence. A person in northern Morocco may be able to see Spanish territory. That closeness changes how risk feels. Europe is not only an idea on a phone screen, it is physically nearby. People begin asking, can I cross the fence? Can I swim around it? What happens if I reach Spanish territory? Can I request asylum? Can I reach mainland Europe? The legal answers are complicated. Rumors are usually much simpler, and migration decisions are made by human beings, not law books. Some people are looking for work. Some are escaping conflict. Some have traveled through the Sahara. Some are teenagers. Some are educated but cannot find the future they expected. Some believe information from friends. Others believe smugglers or social media videos. This makes Ceuta and Melilla human borders as much as political ones. The same fence means different things depending on where you stand. For a resident, it may mean security. For Spain, national territory. For Morocco, a disputed frontier. For Europe, migration control. For a migrant, possibility. But fences alone do not control borders. Spain can control the Spanish side. It cannot normally send Spanish police deep into Morocco to stop people before they arrive. That means cooperation with Moroccan authorities is extremely important. Morocco also has reasons to cooperate. Spain and the European Union are major economic partners. The countries work together on security and organized crime. Both sides benefit from stable legal movement. This creates dependence in both directions. And whenever something becomes valuable in international relations, it can also become political. In 2021, Ceuta showed just how powerful that connection could become. Chapter 8. When the border became a pressure point. In May 2021, thousands of people began entering Ceuta from Morocco. Some walked through shallow water. Some swam. Some used small boats. Around 8,000 people entered in only 2 days. For a city of roughly 80,000 residents, the effect was enormous. Spain sent soldiers. Police tried to control the beaches and streets. But the crisis had begun before the first swimmer entered the water. The deeper problem involved Western Sahara. Morocco controls most of Western Sahara and considers it part of the kingdom. The Polisario Front wants an independent Sahrawi state. In 2021, Polisario leader Brahim Ghali became seriously ill. Spain allowed him to enter the country for medical treatment. Madrid described the decision as humanitarian. Morocco was furious. Then, border control around Ceuta weakened. Spanish officials accused Morocco of allowing the mass movement because of the diplomatic dispute. A Moroccan minister publicly connected the relaxed controls to Spain's decision over Ghali. For Spain, the lesson was uncomfortable. A fence was not enough. Spain needed cooperation from the country around it. This gave border cooperation political value. But we need careful language here. The people crossing were not weapons. They were individuals with their own reasons. The political question is whether controlling movement toward a border can become a tool of pressure between governments. The 2021 crisis showed how closely migration and diplomacy could become connected. Relations later improved. In 2022, Spain moved closer to Morocco's position on Western Sahara, describing Morocco's autonomy proposal as the most serious and realistic basis for a solution. But only months later, another border tragedy occurred. This time in Melilla. On June 24, 2022, a large group of migrants moved toward the border. Many were from Sudan and other African countries. The situation became chaotic. People climbed fences. Security forces tried to stop them. Stones were thrown. Force was used. People fell. Others became trapped in a crowded border area. By the end, many people were dead. Moroccan authorities reported 23 deaths. United Nations experts later referred to at least 37. Human rights organizations demanded deeper investigations and raised serious questions about the use of force and medical assistance. The images were difficult to forget. For years, border politics had been discussed through numbers: arrivals, returns, police officers, kilometers of fence. In Melilla, those numbers became human bodies. And still, the pressure continued. Then came 2026. In the weeks before another major Ceuta crisis, messages and videos spread online. Some gave misleading information about Spanish immigration rules and a court decision involving sea arrivals. Complicated law became a simple message on social media. Reach Ceuta, and Spain cannot send you back. That was not an accurate description. Entering Ceuta did not automatically give someone residence. It did not automatically open the road to mainland Europe. But simple messages often travel faster than legal explanations. Videos of successful crossings spread. Rumors grew. Economic frustration was also real. Many young Moroccans felt that good jobs and stable futures were difficult to find. A smartphone made Europe visible every day, and Ceuta made Europe feel physically close. At the end of July 2026, the pressure exploded. More than 70,000 people entered or surged towards Ceuta during the mass movement reported at the time. The city was overwhelmed. Many people later returned to Morocco. Thousands remained for some time. Emergency services faced enormous pressure. People needed shelter, food, medical care, and legal processing. And people died. Drowning and other dangers turned the crossing into one of the deadliest crises in Ceuta's recent history. Immediately, theories appeared. Had Morocco deliberately created the crisis? Had Spain's policies invited it? Was it mainly social media? Was it organized by criminal networks? The evidence did not support one simple answer. Misinformation clearly played an important role. Economic frustration mattered. Spanish border preparation was criticized, and Morocco's cooperation remained essential. But public evidence did not prove that the Moroccan government had secretly organized the entire 2026 movement. That distinction matters. Suspicion is not fact. Later, Moroccan authorities increased security and blocked new attempts to reach Ceuta. This gave us a more careful lesson. Not that Morocco controls every migration crisis, but that Spain and Europe depend heavily on Moroccan cooperation when large numbers of people move toward these borders. This is a relationship of mutual need. Spain wants migration and security cooperation. Morocco wants trade, investment, political respect, and cooperation from Europe. Neither side benefits from permanent chaos, but the border gives both sides leverage, and that takes us beyond Ceuta. Because behind Spain's relationship with Morocco stands a much larger regional struggle. Chapter 9. The Bigger Game. Travel south from Ceuta, along the Atlantic side of Morocco, and eventually another disputed territory appears. Western Sahara. It is large, mostly desert, and politically very important. For years, it was controlled by Spain and known as Spanish Sahara. When Spain prepared to leave in the 1970s, Morocco claimed the territory. The Polisario Front wanted independence. Morocco took control of most of Western Sahara. The Polisario fought Moroccan forces. Algeria supported the Polisario and became home to large Sahrawi refugee camps. A UN-backed ceasefire began in 1991. But the basic disagreement survived. Morocco offers autonomy for Western Sahara under Moroccan sovereignty. The Polisario continues to demand self-determination with independence as an option. This dispute shapes Morocco's foreign relations, and it explains why Spain's decision about Brahim Ghali in 2021 created such anger. For Morocco, Western Sahara is not a small foreign policy question. It is connected to national territory. Spain faces a difficult balance. It needs good relations with Morocco. But Algeria is also important. Morocco and Algeria are major regional rivals. Their land border has been closed for decades. Algeria broke diplomatic relations with Morocco in 2021. Western Sahara is one of the main reasons. Algeria also has major energy resources and important connections with Europe. So Spain can improve relations with Morocco and create new problems with Algeria. This happened after Spain moved closer to Morocco's Western Sahara position in 2022. One diplomatic problem became easier. Another became harder. Then there is the European Union. Morocco is an important economic and security partner for Europe. Cars and car parts move through Moroccan factories. Agricultural products travel north. European investment travels south. Millions of Moroccans live in European countries. Security agencies cooperate. And migration makes the relationship even more important. Morocco is not only a country people leave. It is also a transit country for people traveling from other parts of Africa. Europe, therefore, needs Morocco. But Morocco also needs European markets, investment, and technology. Again, dependence moves in both directions. Then the map becomes larger. Across the Atlantic lies the United States. For an American listener, this may seem like a new part of the story. In fact, the connection is very old. In 1777, Sultan Muhammad III opened Moroccan ports to ships from the new United States. Morocco became one of America's earliest international partners. In 1786, the two countries signed a treaty of peace and friendship, creating formal recognition and a relationship that began before the U.S. Constitution was signed. Think about that. George Washington had not yet become president. The modern American government had not yet taken shape. And the United States already had a formal relationship with Morocco. The connection continued. In 1821, the Moroccan Sultan gave the United States a building in Tangier for diplomatic use. It became the first property owned by the U.S. government outside the United States. In modern times, the relationship became strongly connected to security and military cooperation. Then, in December 2020, the United States made an important decision. The Trump administration recognized Moroccan sovereignty over Western Sahara. Morocco, at the same time, agreed to restore formal relations with Israel. For Morocco, American recognition was a major diplomatic victory. Later, U.S. policy did not reverse that recognition, while Washington also continued to support a UN political process. Other countries also moved closer to Morocco's position. Spain supported Morocco's autonomy proposal in 2022. France later went further in its support for Moroccan sovereignty. This strengthened Morocco diplomatically and increased tension with Algeria and the Polisario. Now return to Ceuta and Melilla. They are not the center of all these conflicts. A crisis at the border is not automatically controlled by Washington, Algeria, or some secret international plan. That kind of explanation is too simple. International politics is not one chess player moving every piece. It is a network. Spain rejects Morocco's claim to Ceuta and Melilla, but cooperates closely with Morocco. Morocco wants support on Western Sahara, but also wants European trade. The United States supports Morocco strongly, but Spain is also an important American and NATO ally. Algeria competes with Morocco, but also has major economic interests in Europe. Governments cooperate in one area and disagree in another. That is what makes this story complicated. And it also explains how two very small cities can matter. Ceuta and Melilla sit where several systems meet: Europe and Africa, Spain and Morocco. Migration routes, trade routes, territorial claims, regional rivalry, and international diplomacy. A map measures a place in square kilometers. Politics measures it in meaning. Chapter 10. A border older than the crisis. Return to Ceuta. The sea is still there. Morocco is still on the other side of the border. Spain is still across the strait. And also here, on the African coast. At the beginning of our story, Ceuta looked like a strange detail on a map. Now the map carries 6 centuries of history. Portugal, Spain, Morocco, Muslim dynasties, Christian kingdoms, colonialism, independence, migration, Europe, America. But perhaps the most important lesson is simpler. Borders look permanent when we see them on a modern map. History shows something different. Borders are created by war, treaties, marriage, trade, political decisions, migration, and sometimes geography. Ceuta survived all of them. So did Melilla. When Portugal captured Ceuta in 1415, the United States did not exist. The European Union did not exist. Modern Spain did not yet exist in the form we know today. More than 600 years later, the city is still connected to an Iberian state. That is remarkable, but age alone does not answer the question of who should control a place. Something can remain under one state for centuries and still be disputed. Morocco continues to claim Ceuta and Melilla. Spain continues to reject the claim. Neither government appears ready to change its basic position. Why? Partly because changing the border would create enormous problems. Imagine Spain decided tomorrow to transfer Ceuta to Morocco. What happens to the people who live there? Their citizenship? Property? Schools? Pensions? Businesses? European rights? Police? The border? These are not details. They are people's lives. Now imagine Morocco announced that it would permanently forget its claim. That would also carry political costs. For decades, Morocco has connected the issue to national territory. Giving up the claim could be presented inside Morocco as giving up Moroccan land. So both countries have reasons to keep their positions. Spain has little reason to leave. Morocco has little reason to forget. This creates a strange kind of stability. A disagreement can survive because changing the situation may be harder than living with it. Most days, Ceuta and Melilla are simply cities. Children go to school, people go to work, shops open, families eat together, cars move through the streets, the border works. Then something happens. A diplomatic crisis, a migration surge, a political statement. Suddenly, cameras arrive. Police fill the border. The world remembers Ceuta. Then the crisis becomes quieter. But the geography remains. This is why 2021, 2022, and 2026 are not completely separate stories. They happened inside the same structure. A European state controls cities on the African continent. Morocco claims them. The economic difference between the two sides creates movement. The border is part of Europe's external frontier. Spain needs cooperation from Morocco. Morocco gains importance because of that cooperation. The events change. The structure remains. And no fence can remove geography. A higher wall cannot move Morocco farther away. A camera cannot remove economic differences. Police cannot erase a sovereignty dispute. And a border gate cannot stop people from imagining another life. That does not mean borders are unnecessary. Governments have a responsibility to control entry. Residents have a right to security. Countries need immigration laws. Large, uncontrolled movements can create serious pressure on housing, hospitals, schools, and public services. But migrants are also human beings. Some are escaping danger. Some are searching for work. Some believe false information. Some make desperate choices. Some take terrible risks. The same border can represent security to one person and hope to another. This is what makes Ceuta and Melilla larger than two small cities. They force several difficult questions into the same place. What makes territory belong to a country? History, geography, law, treaties, the people who live there, international recognition? There is no simple rule that solves every case. That is why Gibraltar remains British while Spain claims it. Why Western Sahara remains disputed, and why Ceuta and Melilla remain Spanish while Morocco continues to claim them. The modern Strait also teaches us something about power. Centuries ago, power often meant armies and ships. A king wanted a fortress. A fleet wanted a port. Today, power may also mean trade, migration cooperation, investment, energy, diplomatic recognition, security partnerships. The tools changed. The importance of geography did not. Spain and Morocco disagree, but they also need each other. Ships cross the strait every day. Businesses trade. Factories depend on supply chains. Families travel. Police cooperate. Tourists move in both directions. Neither country can simply turn away. The same water that once carried armies now carries ferries, containers, workers, tourists, and information. The Strait has never only separated Europe and Africa. It has connected them. In 711, armies crossed north. In 1415, Portuguese forces crossed south. Later, Spain expanded into North Africa. European colonial systems came and went. Morocco became independent. Spain joined the European Union. Migration routes changed. Technology changed. But movement continued. Now stand one final time at the border. On one side is Morocco. On the other is Spain. Only a few meters can separate two legal systems, two economies, and two political stories. For the person standing there, the line is real. A passport can decide whether a gate opens. A law can change a life. But behind that modern gate stands a much older story. Kingdoms disappeared. Empires disappeared. Governments changed. Flags changed. The meaning of the border changed again and again. Yet the cities remained. And on the northern coast of Africa, a person can still stand in Morocco, walk toward a border, and find Spain on the other side. 600 years of history, separated by a gate. And the world around us, so you can improve your English while learning something new. You can also choose another story on the channel and keep listening. Every story gives you a chance to learn new words, understand more, and feel more comfortable with English. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I'll see you in the next one.